A boy burst into a police station and begged them to arrest his father. When they discovered the reason, everyone in the station was horrified. Benjamin woke up to the sound of the old, worn-out clock that marked another morning in the small, humble house where he lived with his father Jacob. The first rays of sunlight barely passed through the cracks in the dusty windows, illuminating the peeling walls and the creaky wooden floor. Jacob, already awake, was preparing for another day in the relentless search for work, wearing his best clothes though worn by time and use. "Benjamin, my son, today again we have no food for breakfast," said Jacob with an apologetic look, trying to hide his sadness and frustration. "I want you to promise that you will eat at school, all right? The school meal might not be much, but it is important that you do not go hungry." Benjamin, at 12 years old, already carried the weight of a harsh reality without much hope. He understood his father's look. It was not just the lack of food, it was the reflection of prolonged unemployment, many closed doors, and countless times they had to choose between paying rent or buying something to eat. "I promise, Dad," Benjamin replied, forcing a smile to try to ease the burden he knew his father carried. "I know things will get better. You always say that after the storm comes the calm," said the boy optimistically, repeating the words he heard from his father in the most difficult moments. The conversation was interrupted by the sound of a car passing on the dirt road in front of the house. It was a reminder of the world outside, indifferent to their daily struggles. Jacob placed his hand on Benjamin's shoulder, a simple gesture, but one that conveyed strength and priceless love. "You are my greatest treasure, Benjamin. Never forget that. No matter how hard things get, we are in this together, and I will do my best to give you a better life, my son," said Jacob, with a firm but emotional voice. Benjamin nodded, feeling a mix of pride and sadness. He knew that despite the hardships, the love between him and his father was their greatest wealth. Benjamin was almost ready to leave, but Jacob, giving one last search in the kitchen cabinets, turned to Benjamin with a worried expression, trying to stay strong. "You know, Benjamin, I think I never told you about my grandfather, your great-grandfather. He also went through tough times very similar to ours," Jacob began, as his fingers found only emptiness in the cabinets. Benjamin, curious, approached, momentarily forgetting his hunger. "What happened to him?" he asked, eager for any story that would briefly take him away from his reality. "He taught me that our greatest wealth is not in what we have in our pockets or the cabinets, but here." Jacob touched his chest over his heart, then gently touched Benjamin's head. "He went hungry. He was cold, but he never lost hope. He always said that true strength comes from within, from our ability to dream and fight for those dreams. And that is what we are doing, right? Fighting together, dreaming together. That is why you should not stop studying, and I should not stop looking for a job." Benjamin nodded, feeling a wave of warmth and determination fill his chest, despite the emptiness in his stomach. As they said goodbye at the door, Jacob knelt to Benjamin's height, looking directly into his son's eyes. "Go to school, learn a lot, and please do not forget to eat the school meal. It is important." Benjamin, with eyes almost a mirror of his empty stomach, forced a smile and promised, "I will eat, Dad. And who knows, one day I might make sure we never lack food at home again." With one last hug, strong and full of meaning, Benjamin left for school, leaving Jacob at the door, watching his son walk down the dirt road until he turned the corner and disappeared from sight. A few minutes later, Benjamin arrived at school, the environment a stark contrast to the simplicity of his home. The freshly painted walls and hallways were filled with student projects. When teacher Mariana announced the new class project, "What does home mean to you?" Benjamin's eyes lit up with a mix of curiosity and apprehension. "I want you to really think about this. Home can mean many different things to different people," she explained, distributing the necessary materials. While Benjamin's classmates began excitedly discussing their homes, rooms, families, and even pets, Benjamin felt a pang of discomfort. Daniel, noticing Benjamin's silence, leaned over to him, whispering not to attract attention. "So what are you going to put in the project? I bet you have a lot to say about your dad, right? You two are really close." Benjamin looked at Daniel, his closest friend, who knew most of his struggles but not all. "Yeah, I was thinking about that. But it's strange, Daniel. When she talked about home, the first thing that came to mind wasn't exactly a place, you know? It was more the feeling of being with my dad, even if we don't have much. Daniel frowned, trying to understand. But that's good, right? I mean, it shows that home isn't just a big house or having a lot of things. Benjamin nodded, a little relieved that Daniel understood. Yes, that's it. But hearing others talk, I started thinking what it would be like to have a room of my own, or not having to worry if we will have something to eat at night. Their conversation was interrupted by the teacher, who was going around to see how the pairs were progressing. When she reached Benjamin and Daniel, she smiled. So boys, what are you going to talk about in the project? Daniel shrugged, glancing at Benjamin, encouraging him to speak. We are going to talk about how home is more about the people we are with than the place itself, said Benjamin, gaining confidence as the words came out. Teacher Mariana nodded, visibly pleased. That's very important, Benjamin. Often the value of a home is in the moments we share and the love we feel, not in the objects we possess. Back to work, Benjamin began sketching ideas with Daniel, discussing how they could visually represent the concept of home as a feeling rather than a physical place. They decided to create a poster with drawings of different situations, the two of them playing soccer, helping each other with homework, and a drawing of Benjamin and his father cooking together. This shows that no matter where we are, if we are with the ones we love, we are home, explained Daniel, while Benjamin nodded, feeling a wave of gratitude for his friend. When recess arrived, Benjamin and Daniel hurried to the courtyard. With their snacks in hand, Benjamin looked at the sandwich and apple with an appreciation that only someone who had truly felt hunger could understand. Daniel, noticing Benjamin's hesitation before taking the first bite, asked with a slight smile, "It's the best meal you've ever seen, isn't it?" Benjamin, with a shy smile, nodded. "You have no idea, Daniel. Some days this is all I get to eat." Daniel, aware of the situation, placed his own snack next to Benjamin's. "Then today, we will do something different. We will share everything, so we have a little more of each thing." Benjamin looked at Daniel, eyes full of gratitude. "You don't have to do this, Daniel. I can be content with just this for today, and surely when I get home my dad will have managed to get food." Daniel shrugged, a light gesture, but full of meaning. "Yes, but today we have enough to share. Besides, what are friends, if not the family we choose, right?" They began eating, each bite accompanied by laughter and plans for the rest of the home project. Between bites, Benjamin felt more than the taste of the sandwich. He savored the feeling of belonging and friendship, elements as essential to his definition of home as the walls that form a house, and his hunger soon faded for a few moments. After recess, Benjamin and Daniel returned to the classroom, finding a different scene than usual. Two police officers invited by the teacher were preparing a presentation about the police career, the public contest process, and what a police officer's daily life was like. The room was bustling with students settling into their seats, eager for the lecture. Teacher Mariana called for silence and introduced the guests, highlighting the importance of knowing various professions. As the lecture unfolded, with the officers sharing experiences and explaining the challenges and rewards of the profession, Benjamin and Daniel maintained a low dialogue, careful not to attract the teacher's attention. Daniel, with a spark of curiosity in his eyes, leaned towards Benjamin. "Did you know that my uncle once told me that prisoners have much better food than our school meal? They say it's more varied in everything," he whispered, glancing quickly at the officers as if expecting them to confirm his statement. Benjamin, surprised by the comment, frowned as he processed the information. "Really? That means the criminals shouldn't be afraid to do wrong things. In the end, if they get caught, they end up getting free food and a place to stay without worrying about anything," he replied, his voice low, filled with a mix of incredulity and reflection about his own situation at home. Daniel, noticing the direction of the conversation, quickly added, "Oh, but it's not like that. My uncle said that despite the food, jail is a bad place, smelly and full of bad people. It's not as simple as it seems, you know. Freedom is worth much more than a free meal." Daniel looked at Benjamin, trying to gauge his reaction to this new information. Benjamin nodded, thoughtful. The conversation made him reflect on the complexity of choices and the consequences that accompany each action. "Makes sense," he said softly. "Nothing that seems too easy is worth it in the end. I think the real fight is for something bigger, like freedom and the chance to live a good and honest life, even if it's hard." His words were almost a whisper, lost among the sounds of the lecture that continued in the background. Daniel agreed. "That's right. I think in a way, we are all seeking our freedom, no matter the situation." Their conversation flowed naturally, touching on deep topics, but always maintaining a low tone, blending with the classroom sounds. At the end of the lecture, as the officers were gathering their materials, Benjamin looked at Daniel thoughtful. "It's strange to think that for some, jail seems to offer more than they have outside, isn't it?" Daniel nodded, looking at the floor as if searching for the right words. "Yes, but my uncle also said that inside, it's everything but paradise. There might be food, but it's a hard, sad place." Daniel's words painted a different reality than Benjamin had initially imagined. Something that seemed advantageous no longer seemed so great. Benjamin then reflected on this, his gaze lost in the distance. "I think I understand. Even if they have food, the price is too high, right? Losing freedom, living away from those we love." Daniel looked at Benjamin and responded, "Exactly. Food is the least of it when you think about what you really lose." The two remained silent, each immersed in their thoughts, processing the complex and often contradictory reality of the adult world gradually being revealed to them. As they left school, Daniel pulled his cell phone from his pocket, a device he had received from his father on his last birthday, and began dialing some numbers quickly. "Just a second, Benjamin. I'm going to call my mom," he said, while Benjamin waited, curious. Hearing his mom's voice answer, Daniel explained with a hopeful tone, "Mom, can I walk home with Benjamin today? We live close, and I think it would be really nice to walk a bit and talk about the day with my friend." There was a brief pause as Daniel listened to the response. "Really? Thanks, Mom. I promise I'll go straight home, don't worry." Hanging up, he smiled at Benjamin. She said yes. "Shall we go?" Walking side by side, the conversation between the two flowed naturally. They talked about the school day, the police officer's lecture, and even joked about who would win if they competed in a contest in the future. As they approached their homes, the conversation became more reflective, pondering the dreams and challenges each faced and how they could overcome them, until they had to say goodbye, each heading to their own home. Arriving home, Benjamin found his father, Jacob, in the small living room of their humble house, seeming to prepare for something really important, as if he was about to receive an Oscar and soon take the stage. "Ah, Benjamin, you arrived just in time. I have news," said Jacob, a sparkle of optimism in his eyes that Benjamin had not seen in a long time. "I got a job interview for this afternoon. It could be the chance we've been waiting for." Benjamin, surprised and excited, hugged his father. "This is incredible, Dad. Everything will work out. You'll see. I'm so happy to hear this, and I knew something good would happen for us. It was just a matter of time." As they talked, the clock advanced, approaching the time set for the interview. Jacob looked at the clock and, realizing the time, hurried. "I need to go. Stay safe here in the house. Don't go far if you go out, and do your homework so it doesn't get delayed, okay? I'll be back soon, I promise," he advised, putting on his most presentable coat, even though it was from past times and a bit old and wrinkled by marks of time. With a final look of encouragement to Benjamin, Jacob left the house, leaving Benjamin alone but full of hope. Benjamin went to the window, watching his father walk towards the interview, feeling a mix of anxiety and pride. He knew the challenges his father faced in finding work, but he also knew his determination. Alone at home, Benjamin reflected on his father's words and the importance of that moment for both of them. He knew the next hours would be tense, but he was determined to stay positive, trusting that the interview could be the beginning of a new phase in their lives. He sat at the kitchen table, opened his notebooks, and started doing his homework, trying to keep his mind occupied while waiting for his father's return. However, his thoughts kept him from fully concentrating on his homework, filled with hope and anxiety for Jacob's return. The house, usually full of conversations and laughter, seemed strangely silent, echoing the weight of the wait. Then Daniel's voice, calling him from outside, broke the silence like a ray of sunshine on a cloudy day. "Benjamin, come outside. The day is too beautiful to stay locked inside like this. Let's play a bit. Enjoy the sun," Daniel shouted enthusiastically. Curious and grateful for the interruption, since the homework wasn't progressing as expected at that moment, Benjamin put away his materials and ran outside, finding Daniel standing with a contagious smile and a jump rope in his hands. "How about we try to break our record today? I'm warning you, it will be tough to beat me," Daniel suggested, referring to a previous challenge where they competed to see who could jump rope the longest without making a mistake. Benjamin, excited by the idea that something so simple could bring so much joy, accepted the challenge without hesitation. Between jumps and laughter, the afternoon began to pass more quickly. The jump rope game gave way to other equally improvised and fun games, each making their problems seem a bit more distant. During a brief rest, sitting on the sidewalk and catching their breath, the conversation took a more serious turn. "I'm really excited. My dad was called for a job interview," commented Benjamin, trying to hide his anxiety. "But I've also been thinking about what the police officer said today about public contests. My dad never studied much, you know. He told me he didn't even get to the grade we are in now. I think he would have trouble with something like that. The police officer said it's very hard and that you have to know a lot." The sincerity in Benjamin's words revealed a deep concern, not just about the interview result, but about the future itself. Daniel reflected for a moment before responding. "It's good that your dad has an interview. You know, Benjamin, sometimes we have to start somewhere, right? Maybe your dad can study more if he wants to. My mom always says it's never too late to learn new things." The simplicity of Daniel's solution carried a dose of optimism Benjamin didn't expect but welcomed with gratitude. As the sun began to set, coloring the sky in shades of orange and pink, the two friends decided to end their afternoon of play. "Thanks for today, Daniel. I needed this," Benjamin said, a genuine smile lighting up his face for the first time that day. "Anytime I'm here," Daniel responded with a nod before they said their goodbyes. As Benjamin walked back home, he felt a bit lighter, though still anxious about his father's return. Daniel's presence and the unexpected afternoon of fun had brought a new perspective, a reminder that despite the challenges they faced, they were not alone. After an afternoon full of laughter and momentary forgetfulness of his worries, Benjamin found himself again within the silent confines of his small home. The wait for his father's return seemed longer now, each minute stretching like hours. He tried to distract himself with his schoolwork, but his heart was heavy with expectation. Finally, he heard the door open. Jacob entered, but his expression was filled with a deep sadness Benjamin recognized immediately. "What happened, Dad?" Benjamin asked, quickly approaching. Jacob sighed, a sound that seemed to carry the weight of the world. "I didn't get the job, son. They said they needed someone with more experience or at least more education." His voice was a whisper, his eyes fixed on the floor, unable to meet his son's. Benjamin felt a pang of pain seeing his hero so discouraged. Jacob, trying to change the subject to something less gloomy, then told about his stop at a bakery on the way home. "A woman there saw that I needed help. She bought 2 ham and cheese sandwiches. I ate mine, but I saved this one for you." He extended the sandwich to Benjamin, a simple gesture but full of meaning. Benjamin accepted the sandwich, feeling a mix of gratitude and sadness. "Dad, this will pass," he said, trying to show more confidence than he actually felt. "You are the strongest and smartest dad in the world. Something good will happen. I know it will." Jacob forced a smile, touched by his son's encouraging words, before Benjamin headed to the living room to eat. Alone with the ham and cheese sandwich in his hands, Benjamin ate his food, satisfying the hunger that had returned after playing with Daniel, but his mind was on his father. Then, a noise from the kitchen broke the silence of the house. Running back, he found Jacob collapsed on the floor. Panic took over Benjamin. Not knowing what to do, he ran to the phone and dialed Daniel's number, his heart pounding uncontrollably. "Daniel, please come quickly. Bring anything to eat. My dad has fainted. I don't know what to do." Daniel, on the other end of the line, promised to come as quickly as possible. In a few minutes he was knocking on the door, breathless. with some packs of cookies in his hands, snacks his mother had bought especially for him. Daniel hadn't told his mother what he was doing. The fear of reprimand had stopped him, as she had always shown to be somewhat individualistic, believing everyone should deal with their own problems, and it wouldn't be different with Jacob. When Benjamin opened the door for Daniel, their eyes met, a mix of relief and shared desperation between them. Daniel entered, placing the packs on the table quickly. "This was all I could grab without my mom seeing," he explained, his worried gaze turning to Jacob, who was beginning to regain consciousness. Together, the two friends took care of Jacob, offering him water and the cookies, a small gesture of care and concern that meant the world to Benjamin in that moment of crisis. Jacob had lied to his son about the ham and cheese sandwich. The woman had only bought one, and it was the one he gave to Benjamin earlier. Jacob had been without food for more than a day. The night advanced as Jacob slowly recovered, Daniel's presence bringing unexpected comfort to both him and Benjamin. That night, friendship and generosity proved more valuable than ever. A reminder that even in the darkest moments they were not alone. After the tense night, the calm that followed was a great relief for Benjamin and Jacob. Daniel, having done what he could, needed to return home, but not without receiving words of gratitude from Jacob. "You two showed today what it means to be brave and a friend. Thank you, Daniel. And Benjamin, son, I'm stronger because of you," said Jacob, his voice filled with emotion and eyes shining with unshed tears. Jacob's words, though comforting, planted seeds of determination in Benjamin's heart. The night brought a wave of thoughts and reflections for Benjamin. Lying in his bed, the darkness of the room seemed to echo the darkness of the worries that surrounded him. Benjamin's mind spun around the lecture about the police, the prison, and especially Daniel's words about how prisoners were fed. These thoughts intertwined with the images of his father fainting from hunger. In the quiet of the night, Benjamin reached a painful conclusion, but in his youthful mind, it seemed like the only viable solution to ensure his father's well-being. With the dawn of a new day, Benjamin woke up with a firm resolution. His plan was clear in his mind, as definitive as the sunrise that bathed his room with light. He knew he needed to act alone, keeping his thoughts and intentions away from his father's worried eyes. During the improvised breakfast of leftover cookies from the night before, the silence between father and son was loaded with unspoken words, with Benjamin struggling to keep his decision hidden under a facade of normality. After the improvised meal, Benjamin prepared to go to school, as usual. With a tight hug for Jacob, who still showed signs of the previous night's strain, Benjamin was about to leave. While his father was distracted, he went to the closet and grabbed an old can of black spray paint. Then he finally left through the door. His heart was pounding, each step taking him farther from home and closer to his final destination, the police station with its inviting white wall. The walk to the police station was a blur of thoughts and determination. Benjamin replayed his plan in his mind, each detail carefully considered. He knew the risks, but the image of his father, weak and fainting, strengthened his decision. "It's for his own good," Benjamin murmured to himself, trying to push away the doubts and fear that threatened his courage. Arriving at the police station, Benjamin hesitated for a brief moment, the white wall before him serving as a physical reminder of the gravity of his impending actions. Taking a deep breath, he took the spray can from his backpack, his hand trembling slightly with adrenaline and the weight of his decision. With a quick glance to ensure he wasn't being watched, Benjamin pressed the spray can tip against the wall, starting his act of desperation and hope, a symbol of his last attempt to save his father from the misery that surrounded them. As Benjamin sprayed the black paint on the white wall of the police station, focused on his act of desperation, he hoped some police officer would notice him there before the paint ran out. And that's exactly what happened when a firm voice sounded behind him. "What do you think you're doing?" Benjamin turned to find Officer William, whose expression was a mix of surprise and authority. "That's right, officer. I did this. I painted everything. You're going to take me to the station." "I know," Benjamin said, showing the spray can to the officer. William, realizing the situation and the strange determination in the boy's eyes, sighed. "Come with me." "We'll sort this out inside," he said, guiding Benjamin gently but firmly inside the station, seeing he was just a child. Passing through the front door, they were greeted by Officer Mia, who looked at Benjamin with evident concern. "What happened, William?" she asked, noticing the spray can and Benjamin's tired appearance. Inside the well-lit station reception, Benjamin felt the weight of his actions. Looking at William and then at Mia, he began to plead with an urgency that surprised them both. "I am Benjamin. Please, you have to arrest my dad. You can't leave him free any longer," he said, his voice breaking with emotion. William and Mia exchanged confused and worried glances, clearly touched by the boy's plea but also puzzled by the unusual request. Mia, moved by a mix of professional concern and personal compassion, approached Benjamin. "Why do you want us to arrest your father, Benjamin? What did he do?" Her voice was soft, trying to create a safe space for Benjamin to open up. Benjamin's initial insistence on keeping the reason secret was broken by the genuine concern in her eyes. Taking a deep breath, he finally revealed the true reason behind his desperate act. "My dad, he goes hungry. We go hungry. I heard at school that in jail at least they give food. I just wanted him to have something to eat," Benjamin confessed, tears now flowing freely down his face. The silence that followed was filled with emotion as William and Mia processed the boy's words. Benjamin's desperation to ensure his father's basic well-being, even if it meant seeing him behind bars, deeply moved the officers. Mia knelt beside Benjamin, placing a comforting hand on his shoulder. "Benjamin, your father won't need to go to jail to have something to eat. We will help you in another way, but you cannot keep making graffiti everywhere. It is wrong," she warned him. Her determination to help was as clear and strong as the conviction in her eyes. William, equally affected by the situation, agreed, already thinking of various ways the police community could mobilize in support of Benjamin's family. That moment at the police station marked the beginning of a new journey for Benjamin and his father. Benjamin's impulsive act, driven by love and desperation, opened the doors to a wave of solidarity and support that he could not have imagined. William took a donut left over from the team's breakfast, still in great condition and untouched, and handed it to Benjamin. "Here, Benjamin, you are just a child. You need to eat well to grow strong and healthy, and we will solve your father's situation. We are already talking with the rest of the department." After Benjamin's emotional outburst at the station, William and Mia knew they needed to act. They understood that help had to go beyond the immediate. It was necessary to offer a sustainable solution that could change the lives of Benjamin and Jacob in the long term, and also of other people in similar situations. The idea of a preparatory course for the civil service exam came as a light at the end of the tunnel. William and Mia talked with their colleagues, all experienced in their areas, and quickly put together a plan to offer a specialized course for people in delicate financial situations like Jacob's, so they could participate in a civil service exam even if they had not completed their studies. Benjamin, still apprehensive about the consequences of his actions, made William promise not to reveal anything about the graffiti. William, understanding the importance of this request for the boy, agreed. He saw in that promise not only a chance to protect Benjamin, but also to strengthen the trust between them. "We will do this together, Benjamin. We will help your father build a better future with you," said William, before they prepared to visit Jacob. Arriving at Benjamin and Jacob's house, the tension was palpable. Benjamin feared his father's reaction, but there was also a thread of hope. William, with his experience in handling delicate situations, knew how to conduct the conversation with tact and compassion. "Mr. Jacob, your son came to the station today to ask for help with your situation. No one deserves to go through this, through hunger, and we were very touched by his gesture. So we decided to start a course for unemployed people who have not finished their studies to prepare them for the upcoming civil service exam, and we will provide a food voucher for each participant. It is a benefit we all receive from the government, but do not usually use, since the station provides meals for the officers. We want to invite you to participate in the course." Jacob's reaction was one of surprise and then genuine interest. The possibility of changing his current situation, of offering a better future for his son, sparked a glimmer of hope in his eyes. "Do you think I have a chance?" Jacob asked, his voice carrying a mixture of hope and uncertainty. William, confident, replied, "We all believe you do. We will offer all the necessary support. You will not be alone on this journey." The following days were full of activities. William and Mia mobilized the department and the course began to take shape. It was a fledgling project, but the team's determination and commitment were unwavering. They took turns teaching classes after their shifts, covering everything from basic subjects to test-taking techniques and mental well-being. The news of the course spread, attracting others in the community in similar situations to Jacob's, transforming the project into an initiative of hope and change. That night, as Benjamin and Jacob sat together at the kitchen table, a scene that became more frequent after receiving the food vouchers from the department, now allowing them to buy food, Jacob could not hide his enthusiasm. "Can you believe this, Benjamin? I am actually learning things I never thought I could," he said, looking at the notebook spread out in front of him. Benjamin, smiling, replied, "I always knew you could do anything, Dad." The conversation flowed between math lessons and dreams for the future, a future that had seemed distant until then. "When I pass this exam, things will change for us, my son. You will see," Jacob promised, with a determination that Benjamin admired. The boy nodded, gratitude shining in his eyes. "I have no doubts, Dad. We will make it together." This exchange of words full of hope and plans sealed a moment of shared unity and determination, lighting the path ahead. At the dawn of a new day, with the sunlight bathing the school corridors, Benjamin felt a mix of nervousness and excitement. The recent changes in his life had been so surprising that sometimes he struggled to believe everything that was happening. When he met Daniel during recess, there was a palpable urgency to share all the news. Daniel, always present and one of the pillars in his life, was the perfect person to understand and celebrate the updates. As he explained the intervention of the police officers, the offer of the preparatory course for the civil service exam, and his father's change of attitude, Benjamin realized how much these events had affected not only his reality, but also his vision of the future. Daniel, absorbing every word, was genuinely surprised for not being informed about the situation earlier. Daniel's sincere curiosity and surprise were not of reproach, but of a friendship that wished to share both burdens and joys. "I just wanted to make sure everything was really going to happen before I said anything," Benjamin explained, feeling a bit guilty for keeping his friend in the dark, even if only for a short time. The conversation between the two friends then turned to the future, to the possibilities that were opening up from the opportunity Jacob was about to embrace. It was a moment of shared reflection on the challenges, but also on the hopes that united them. And it was in this atmosphere of companionship and shared dreams that they came across the poster about the civil service exam, a visual reminder of what was at stake. The revelation of the exam date, now so close, marked a turning point in the conversation. It became a generator of a new wave of hope, but also of anxiety. "He will make it, Daniel. He has to make it," Benjamin said, his voice filled with a mix of desire and determination. Daniel, always optimistic, agreed, offering words of encouragement. "With everything he is doing, with all this preparation, he is more than ready. It will all work out. You will see." The boys spent the rest of the break discussing study strategies, possible exam content, and how they could help Jacob in the days remaining until the test. It was a mix of planning and dreaming, where reality and hope met. When the bell rang to return to classes, both felt more connected, strengthened by their friendship and shared faith in the future. As the break ended and the two friends prepared to go back to the classroom, Benjamin felt a wave of gratitude for Daniel. "You know, Daniel, having you here, it makes everything seem possible," Benjamin confessed, looking at his friend with deep sincerity. Daniel, smiling in response, patted Benjamin's shoulder lightly. "We're in this together, man. Your dad is going to pass this exam, and things are going to start getting better. You'll see." Walking back to class, Benjamin's anxiety about the future mingled with the certainty of his friend's support, making the path ahead seem a little less daunting. 5 days passed. Anticipation filled the air in Benjamin's house on that significant morning. The days had seemed to drag and fly by at the same time since the conversation in front of the exam poster at school. Now the big day had arrived. Jacob was ready to leave, dressed not only in his most presentable clothes, but also with a layer of hope that Benjamin had never seen before. It was noon, a time marking both the beginning and the end of many expectations. At that critical moment, Daniel and Benjamin arrived, almost like a good omen. They found Jacob adjusting his tie in front of the mirror, an image of determination and nervousness. "Good luck, Mr. Jacob. You're going to ace it," said Daniel with contagious enthusiasm. Benjamin, though dominated by anxiety, managed to add, "Yes, Dad, we believe in you. Everything will go well." Jacob turned to the two, a nervous smile on his lips. "Thank you, boys. I'll do my best," he promised before heading out the door, leaving behind a silence loaded with expectations. Alone in the now quiet house, Benjamin and Daniel tried to fill the time with games and conversations. But the anxiety for Jacob's return and the exam result hung over them like a heavy cloud. The hours dragged slowly, each minute stretching endlessly as they waited for any news. Finally, after 5 long hours, they heard the doorknob turn. Jacob was back, his expression a mix of nervousness and cautious confidence. "How did it go, Dad?" Benjamin asked immediately, his heart pounding in his chest. "I think it went well." "It's hard to say," Jacob replied, trying to maintain a facade of calm. "But I did my best. Now we wait." The family spent the rest of the day in a state of suspense, trying to distract themselves with everyday tasks and light conversations. But the anticipation of the result was a constant shadow that none of them could completely ignore. The night passed restlessly for Benjamin, who could barely sleep, tossing and turning in bed, lost in thoughts and possibilities. When the sun finally rose, bringing with it the next day, the weight became almost unbearable. William's promise to call with the result as soon as possible was the only anchor that kept them grounded on that tense morning. Then the phone rang, cutting through the silence of the house like thunder. Jacob answered, his hand trembling slightly. Benjamin and Daniel, who had spent the night together waiting for the big moment, held their breath. After what seemed like an eternity, Jacob hung up the phone, turning to face the two boys. A slow smile spread across his face, lighting up the room more than the morning sun outside. "I passed the exam," he said, his voice full of surprise and joy. "I will work as a cleaning agent at the police station." Benjamin couldn't contain himself. With a shout of joy, he threw himself into his father's arms in a hug, closely followed by Daniel, who added his own exclamations of happiness to the celebration. "We knew you would make it, Dad. I told you, didn't I?" exclaimed Benjamin between laughs and tears, feeling a wave of relief and happiness so great that it seemed he might lift off the ground. Jacob, hugging his son and his friend, felt the weight of the recent times lifting, replaced by a promising future, finally within reach. That morning with the news brought a new chapter in Jacob's life, marked by a mix of nervousness and happiness. Today he was not just Jacob, Benjamin's father, but Jacob, the newest employee at the local police station. The walk to the station, which might have seemed normal before, today felt like carrying the weight of a long-awaited destiny. Upon arriving, he was greeted by Mia, who had a welcoming smile. She began explaining the details of his new role, from the salary, a number Jacob could hardly believe was for him, to the benefits, including health insurance and other aids he never thought he would be entitled to. "And there's more, Jacob. You will have access to training programs and even a transportation allowance," Mia detailed while guiding Jacob through the station's corridors, introducing him to his new reality. The day was full of learning. Mia showed Jacob his responsibilities, which went beyond maintaining cleanliness. He would be an integral part of the team, contributing to the safety and well-being of everyone at the station. "Your role here is crucial, Jacob. You help keep this place safe and welcoming for all of us," she explained, emphasizing the importance of each task. In a moment of calm, while sharing coffee in the break room, Mia asked about Jacob's educational background. With a hesitation that revealed more than words, Jacob confessed, "I only went up to 4th grade. Mia, without losing her smile, encouraged him. "Jacob, this is not the end. Here at the station, we believe in personal growth. Have you ever thought about going back to school? There are adult education programs that do not require as many hours as regular school. and you can complete all your studies in a much shorter time. The suggestion, though filled with good intentions, left Jacob reluctant. The idea of going back to studying at his age seemed a bigger challenge than any he had faced before. The rest of the day passed in a blur of activities. Immersed in his new duties, Jacob barely noticed the hours passing. When the clock marked the end of the shift, the feeling of accomplishment mixed with reflection on the conversation with Mia. Returning home, the physical fatigue was nothing compared to the turbulence of thoughts about the future. Crossing the home threshold, he was greeted by Benjamin's smile, shining with pride. "How was the day, Dad?" Benjamin asked, eager for details. As he shared the day's experiences, Mia's suggestion about returning to study emerged again in his mind. Watching Benjamin, who listened with admiration, Jacob pondered the idea. The possibility of growth, of being more than he had been so far, was not just a distant dream, but a tangible opportunity. That night, while the house slept, Jacob stayed awake, contemplating the possibility of a future he had never dared to imagine. Jacob woke up with a sense of determination he hadn't felt in years. The night had brought vivid dreams of himself sitting in a classroom, absorbing knowledge with a youthful thirst. Interpreting this dream as a clear sign of his path forward, he finally embraced the idea of resuming his studies. During breakfast, with the sunlight filling the kitchen with warmth and promise, Daniel was already there, his constant presence a reminder of the support network Jacob had around him. "I have some news," announced Jacob, the excitement in his voice capturing the attention of Benjamin and Daniel. "I decided to go back to school. I'm going to enroll in an adult education program, classes twice a week at night. If all goes well, in a few semesters I will complete elementary school and then high school." The news was received with an explosion of joy and applause from the boys, their expressions lit up with happiness and pride. They celebrated the new chapter in Jacob's life, a courageous step towards personal growth and fulfillment. The walk to school that morning was filled with animated conversations about the future, about possibilities and dreams that had once seemed distant. Benjamin and Daniel, inspired by Jacob's decision, spoke about their own goals with a new perspective, realizing it is never too late to change direction or seek new horizons. Jacob, for his part, headed to work with a renewed sense of purpose, his decision to study adding a new dimension of hope to his journey. In the following months, life in Jacob and Benjamin's small house took on a new rhythm. The evenings were now punctuated by study sessions where father and son sat together at the kitchen table, sharing books and knowledge. Benjamin, proud of his father's effort and dedication, found in him a source of inspiration for his own educational journey. Daniel, always a friend and a brother in spirit, joined them whenever he could, the trio becoming a symbol of determination and mutual support. Despite the initial difficulties of getting back into the study routine after so many years, Jacob proved to be a dedicated student. His progress was visible, each academic achievement celebrated as a victory by the entire family. The police station where he now worked, surrounded by colleagues who had become friends, was a place of constant encouragement, each contributing to his success in big and small ways. As Jacob advanced in his education, the transformation in his life was evident. The future, once uncertain and nebulous, now shone with possibilities. Benjamin, watching his father conquer each challenge, grew in his own journey, his dreams and ambitions fueled by Jacob's determination. Daniel, an integral part of this support network, continued to walk alongside Benjamin, both strengthened by the living proof that change is always possible, with courage and effort. Together they faced the future, not as something to fear, but as a vast open field, full of promises and hopes, each following their own path but always united at heart. What did you think of this story? Your support is what motivates us to continue. Don't forget to watch the video that's about to appear on your screen. See you in the next inspiring story.